Jeremy, give me an example of how this has actually worked in the real world.
Well, one of the things that I like to do is almost do the unexpected, and so sometimes I just tell stories. And I remember I was coaching a couple of blokes who ran a business, and for some reason, which I don't think ever they found out, their administrator behaved in a way that was very detrimental indeed to the business, to the point where it could easily have collapsed. And they got rid of her, but they were still very upset about this. And so we had some conversations, and it occurred to me, and I must say a lot of this is intuitive, it occurred to me to tell the story about the monks and the prostitute. And that story is basically about two monks who are sent on an errand by their monastery, and as they're returning they come to a river that's swollen. It's forded, so it's crossable, but the river was running quite deep and fast because of the storm the previous day. And there was a woman standing by the river, and she clearly wanted to cross, and she was looking very apprehensive. And when the monks reached her, she said, well, I need to cross the river, but I'm scared that I'm going to be washed away. Could you help me? And so one of the monks said, well, climb on my back, I'll carry you across. And so he duly carried her across, and then the other monk went with them. At the other side, he put the woman down. She was very grateful. She said, thank you very much. Off she went, and off the monks carried on walking back to the monastery. But now, instead of the light-hearted banter that had been going on before they got to the river, the two monks were now enveloped in a dark cloud of tension and silence, and there was anger. And eventually the monk who'd given this woman a lift said, brother, what's troubling you? You've changed since we crossed the river. What's happened? At which point the other monk just couldn't contain himself any longer, and he exploded. He said, brother, do you realise what you've done? Our monastery forbids us any contact with women at all. Not only did you talk to her, you actually carried her across the river. How could you do that? And the other monk said, the monk who'd given this woman the lift said, brother, I put her down when we got to the other side of the river. You're still carrying her. And this was a very important story for my client, because clearly they were almost like these two monks, these two businessmen, and they had been carrying their resentment, their grievance against this woman long after they had done all they could do to resolve the situation. And there seemed to be some sort of shift. I didn't really know, but I got some feedback, if you like, in Waitrose of all places, several months later, when I happened to bump into one of them, and he's chatting about how business was, and he just volunteered. That story you told me about the monks and the prostitute, I really found it was very helpful. That really helped me to make a shift. And so, what I'm doing there is that's a way of working with people's emotions and their feelings, because I'm tapping into the feelings that these people had, which are in the story expressed by the angry monk, but without actually talking to them about their feelings, or indeed making them go into their feelings about it. They can just choose to empathise with it as little or as much as they care to. And in that case, it was the thing that did the shift. In fact, it was the thing, he said it was the most useful thing in all the conversations that we'd had. So that's an example. That's an example where you can actually really get into people's emotions and feelings, apparently.
So, Jeremy, just let me check I've got this correct. So what you're saying is basically don't employ prostitutes and don't run a ferry company.
That is exactly it.
That's what it's all about.
Perfect, yes, you've got it in a nutshell. Yeah.
I thought so.
So how do you feel about that?
Well, I was thinking of setting up a ferry company. So
I'm glad you...
It was a ferry company specifically for prostitutes as well, so there was going to be some sort of weird thing with the cabins, but never mind.